Our Torah learning today is dedicated to the Aliyah of the Neshama of Yoel, Adi Maiman, Ben David, and Sarah. And this week's Parsha is Parshas Tazria. Tazria translates to conceives. It also translates to give seed, Tazria, Lazura, to give seed. The Parsha talks a lot. It starts off about um, the overall topic is purity and impurity, becoming tahar and tameh, and the first pasuk is about birth and the process of becoming pure again after birth, about a woman as she goes through becoming pure and impure. In this week's parsha, we also got the mitzvah of bris milah, and then it talks about saras, which is basically delving into the topic of death and loss and being impure, aside from just a woman becoming pure and impure, monthly and after birth. So the parsha, the first pasuk starts off immediately speaking of when a woman becomes pregnant, and a woman, obviously, like anything in the parsha, in the Torah, can be both literal and figurative, in that it can be talking about a woman, and this is where we get the halachos of a woman becoming pure and impure, and it also can be speaking to the general public, the Jewish people who bring life into this world, by doing mitzvahs and connecting to Hashem and to following the Torah. So any part of the Torah can be literal or figurative. We obviously learn this a lot over and over again. And for me, this sort of makes the Torah much more meaningful to me because it's alive and it can be translated and input into any area of my life. So any concept or idea that we learn, it can be literal, and it is literal, and it's also not literal. It's also figurative. So the with that in mind, the word tazria can also be literal. Tazria can be conceive pregnancy, or a more metaphorical sense in planting and shedding and regrowing. In a sense where when a seed is planted in the ground of a flower or a vegetable or a fruit or a tree or a piece of grass, the shell of the seed opens up and decomposes before new growth can happen. The shell opens and rots, and then a new plant, a shoot comes out. I don't know if you've ever seen like a potato plant, but I've seen when you put a potato in the ground, it comes with a bunch of eyes on it, and that's where the new potatoes sort of come from. And when you dig them out, the original potato that sprouted all of those, a whole bucket full of new potatoes, is rotten. And so, um, this idea that as growing human beings, when we move into the idea is that as we grow and as we evolve as human beings, as women, when we move into new versions of ourselves, we inevitably have to mourn the old parts of ourselves. And it's not just a byproduct of well, when you move into a new phase or a new stage, or when you have a new change in your life, that we have a grieving of the past, but it's actually a necessary step. It's something that can't be skipped. We have to let go. We have to let things die. The attachment that we have to ourselves, to versions of ourselves, to identities, to our jobs, to our relationships, the meaning that they have for us, to our reputation, different parts of ourselves, right? In areas of self-exploration, when we come up against parts of ourselves that are leading us in ways that we are no longer operating in that space, we have to face those parts and actively participate in letting them go, in mourning and grieving and letting things die and be buried, if we are to be in any sort of movement in our life. And so when a woman in this pasuk, the first pasuk that we're talking about, it says when a woman becomes pregnant and after she gives birth, when a woman comes out of her time of being impure, whether from her monthly cycle or from after giving birth, there is one method that we have of becoming pure again. What is it that cleanses us? Water. Which water, natural water, it has to be natural water. Natural water is the ultimate form of natural flow. And the thing about time is that time is constantly moving, similarly to water. When you, like, if you've ever sat at the ocean and watched the waves and they go on and on and on, like it never ends. And when you leave the ocean, it's still going all day and all night, and you come back in the morning and it never stopped. The ocean never stops moving. A stream is constantly flowing, right? A fish has to swim upstream. It's like constantly going. A creek, a lake, water, anything that's water is constantly moving, and any body of water, and any natural body of water, should we say. Now, time is similar to that. Time, it's constantly in movement, it's constantly changing. Time doesn't stand still. And as time moves on and as we evolve through our lives and move through moments in time, we the idea here and the teaching here is to let time wash away our attachments. And if we are to move through time and through space in a spiritual sense through our lives, then we have to be letting go of things along the way. If you think about a stick that's thrown into a stream, it gets carried for a while and then eventually it gets caught on the wayside, it falls away. So there is no such thing as stagnancy. There's no such thing as standing still, because we are alive and we're in motion, and being alive means that you're in motion and you're moving. Um, the opposite of movement is feeling stuck and being stuck. And if you've ever felt stuck in your life, which I believe is a pretty universal feeling, it's one of the worst feelings in the entire world, because it's like so deeply uncomfortable, because it's not in our nature. It's not in our nature to be stuck and to be bogged down by things. And we know as a fact of life that we are either growing or we're dying. There's no such thing as just staying still. We're either going up or we're going down. We're like on an escalator. This is in terms of ourselves, in our relationship with ourselves, in our involvement with ourselves, in our relationships. We're either in a marriage, in a friendship, in any sort of relationship, we're either getting better or we're getting worse. There's no such thing as staying as a plateau. And in any relationship, this is, and in any job that you have, as a job as a parent, a job as a spouse, a job as a child, a job as a friend, as a neighbor, anything. This goes for every single area of life. And the Pesach's language is interesting because it speaks of conceiving. It says when a woman conceives and then when she gives birth. There's no speaking about the pregnancy itself, which is actually interesting as a very side thought. Iyar, this month that we're in, we just had a Rosh Chodesh this month, and Iyar is sort of an in-between month where there's no holidays and there's it's right after this big, huge, strong energy force of Geula, of redemption that we just had with Pesach. And next month we have this huge, another huge, big energy of Matan Torah, where we're receiving the Torah. And so there's a huge insurgence of positive, abundant blessing, light when we receive the Torah next month. And so this time is sort of an in-between time. It's like a bridge month. And the thing about the bridge month and is that we are instructed to every single day, we don't just sit by and wait until from the redemption the until the abundance, right? This is a theme that we've learned in this class over and over and over again. By Parshas Lech Lecha, Avram is told to go out. It takes years until it unfolds and until any of it makes sense of until the suffering sort of makes sense. We know this by Yosef. He's the journey that Yosef takes. He's thrown in the pit and then he's thrown to Mitzrayim. And it's not until years later where we have an inkling of an understanding of why he had to go through that journey, why he had to go through that time and suffering. And so whenever we are taken out of a place, we are not immediately ready for the blessing, for the destination, so to speak. And so we have this time and space where we're in the journey, and that's what this month of Iyar is about. And in the journey, Hashem says, make a bracha every single day. There's massive sphere energy to tap into every single day. We're not just sitting by idle, we're tapping into that beautiful, beautiful energy. And it very much relates to this idea of pregnancy, also of conceiving and giving birth. The pregnancy part of it, there's no parts of a pregnancy that you want to skip. But the minute a baby is born, it doesn't, a minute a baby is conceived, it's not born. There's 9 months. And when a baby comes early, there's something important that's happening every single day. We don't want a baby to come early. It's not an exciting thing when a baby comes too early. It's kind of scary. And I could translate this into anything. Take a relationship. If a relationship starts and immediately there's a marriage, or it's like, it's concerning, right? If 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 anything, I mean, you could put this idea into any sort of any scenario in your life, and that there are times that are in between times, and that's really what we're in right now. And the interesting thing that was sort of a side idea of ER, of that while we wait, we tap into the blessing. There's blessing and process in all of the parts, even in the waiting parts, and especially in the waiting parts. None of these parts are parts that you want to skip, because like a pregnancy, there's no part that is worth skipping. But what Rabbi Yoel teaches about specifically this idea of pregnancy is interesting, because he says that it's not our job really to focus on the process. It says Isha ki Tazria v'yalida, when she becomes pregnant and when she delivers. Now, this in between time, the Torah doesn't mention at all. The Torah is not talking about the pregnancy. When the seed is planted, the next step is birth. And the teaching for us in this idea is as follows: that in my life, when I focus on the process, when I focus in on the questions and the doubts and the fears and the what ifs and how comes and how in the world, I can lose sight of the goal. I can lose sight of the end goal, and this loop that I can get myself in worry and doubt and fear, obviously gets in the way of life's natural flow. So if we stick with pregnancy, for example, if I started to question and try to have an inkling of an understanding of when exactly the soul enters the body of the embryo that I have created from a seed and an egg inside of my body, I may never get around to just doing my job. My job is not to worry about how that happens. My job is to just allow it to happen inside of me, right? And so this idea of Rabbi Yoel's lesson in this first pasuk specifically is to have less questions and to have more doing, to have less doubt, and to have more trust, to have less fear, and to have more surrender. And if we focus on just the start and the finish, that's my job. That's my job, is just the start, and the ending is up to Hashem. It all works itself out, because it's up to God. It's like none of my business of how it will sort itself out. Hashem gave me a mission, and I do that, and I don't need to worry about how in the world it will work out. I don't know how need to worry myself. That's kind of none of my business. It's Hashem's job, and Hashem will take care of it. It's his plan, it's his timing, and everything. Now, speaking of the idea of conception, the moment of conception, right? If I start to try to figure out how in the world that happens, how does something physical become infused with a soul that becomes alive into a human being? The moment of conception is really the closest experience that we will ever have to not even barely touching what relates to creation and Hashem's creating the world, creating something from nothing. Now, we as human beings cannot create something from nothing. This is in God's category. This is part of what's on Hashem's plate, not on my plate. But it happens to happen inside of us as women. As women, we are the vessel. We are the housing for this miracle to happen inside of our wombs. And the absolute truth is that God has given me and you each a piece of him inside of us. And so maybe we do have the power of creation, because if I have a part of God, if I am a part of God, and God is the one who has the power to create, so perhaps we are partners in God in this creation. We are the humans that create humans. And that's in itself like a mind-blowing idea. Now, obviously the we can't let the ego get involved in this idea too much, because all this really means to me is that the point is it points to my greatest potential as a human being. I can create a human being. This blows my mind because it starts me to think, what else can I create? What else can I share? What else did God give me that I can share with the world, one interaction at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time, one year at a time, right? Maybe it's as simple as having a beautiful face with a beautiful smile and a beautiful energy to share with the next person that I meet. But the idea is that we are creators. We're creators by following the Torah, which is Hashem's guidebook for us human beings. We become His partners in creation, and we we're partners with God. We're partners with God in creation, and we are partners with God in becoming the vessel for the Shekhinah. We're partners with Hashem in enlightening our worlds and in fulfilling our tikkun. The soul itself requires a body to fulfill its tikkun, right? So God plans our life. He creates our destiny, and He is involved in every single breath that we take. He never stops creating. It's not like Hashem created the world and He ever stops creating. He continues to create. Every single moment is orchestrated and overseen by Him. So every moment of beauty and every moment of suffering or pain or discomfort that we have, and every moment of joy that we experience is overseen and conducted by Hashem. And yet we are still a necessary part in rectifying our soul's path. It simply can't be done without us. We are necessary. I am necessary in doing what my soul cannot do for itself. It has to be within me, within my set of circumstances, within my life, within my everything. All the different parts of me that make up me are necessary in partnering with Hashem to fulfilling my soul's tikkun. Now, Tazria, which translates to conception, also very much relates to the topic and the word, not just the topic, but also the word of Taras. Taras is the other huge topic in this week's parsha, which can translate to leprosy, but that's obviously just simply a translation. You lose a lot in the translation. It's a skin condition that shows itself in times of impurity. And the irony is now the word Tazria is related to the word Saras. It has the same it's connected to the word. And the irony is that the fundamentals of somebody who has saras is the opposite of new life, because our sages say that a person who has saras is considered to be dead. So we're sort of flip-flopping to the opposite side of the spectrum here. And to understand this connection of why and how it is connected between, we're talking about conception and birth, and then we speak about taras and death and disconnection. So we kind of need to understand the concept of taras a little bit better. The idea of taras is that it wasn't just simply a skin condition. It was a communication from God. That's what it was. It was a divine sign from Him that you have done something impure. It was a cause and effect. And what happens when somebody is afflicted with taras, by this divine affliction, we have to go out of the camp and spend some time by ourselves by doing hisbodedus, introspection, whatever we want to call it. We were sent out of the camp. When you did something to cause somebody else pain, you had to go spend time by yourself. It was kind of like a timeout. It was like a natural consequence of things. And I thought about this and I thought, could you imagine being that close and connected to God in my daily actions, that God is sending me to time out? Like what a connected existence to have that system going. And this indicates to us that when the concept is that when we are treating somebody poorly, when we speak bad on somebody, it's not about them. It's about me. When I speak about it, Hashem is not saying, go say I'm sorry. Hashem is saying, go take time by yourself. You think that your friend wronged you, and it gives you a right to speak bad about them. You think your neighbor did something wrong, and therefore we can chat in the park about it. You think that um, your sister, your friend, your mother, whoever, somebody wronged you, and now it gives me permission to go speak bad about them. And Hashem says no. Hashem says, go examine yourself. Go spend some time looking inward. Turn to your soul and recognize where that came from. It's like the ultimate mirror of truth that's being held up for us in this process. And this was the system that we had going on when we had the Shekhinah resting within us. It was like the ultimate system of fulfilling our soul's tikkun, of being partnered with Hashem, of soul refinement, and the path to fulfilling your tikkun. And because when you did something wrong, Hashem says, look inside. It's like so simple and so profound that when someone treats you wrong, when you believe that somebody wronged you or someone is not being right to you, don't look at them. Look at yourself. Where is it inside of me that I created or allowed for this to happen? What it's the opposite way of looking outside of yourself for answers. You turn inside into yourself. What does it feel for me? Where does it come from for me? It's this idea that really leads to um, different existence in this world. And when you live in this way, every time you have an experience or you feel a feeling of hurt, of discomfort, of whether it's with a person or with Hashem, right? We look inside ourselves and it brings us closer in our connection to ourselves, to our connection to Hashem, and obviously in fulfilling our tikkun, because this is a system that really creates purity, which is all that we're talking about in this parsha, is becoming pure and impure. And this is the system that creates purity, it creates life, it creates peace, it creates love for yourself, for your friends, for your business partners, for your brothers, for your sisters, for your parents, for your children, for your neighbors, for your rabbis, for your teachers, for everybody. Stick anybody in the whole entire world into the system. This is a system that creates newness. And it's not that different from conception, actually, because that's exactly what conception is creating something new, creating a new existence, creating a new life. And when we operate in this way of looking inside ourselves and not outside into other people, that is something that creates life. And this idea of understanding what Saras really is, we're all sort of talking about the same thing. Now, Saras is obviously not just about one category of Lashon Hara and skin conditions. This is an analogy that goes through every single area of life. Like we spoke about right when I started in the beginning, we're speaking about a woman here conceiving. Obviously, it's not it can be literal, and it's also not literal. It's an analogy for the entire just existence of human beings, right? So this concept of saras is an analogy that fits for any part of life, for any relationship. And right now, as a nation and as individuals, we are in a status of the Metzora. We are outside the camp. We're in exile. And it's vital that we use this process of introspection and looking inward to cleanse ourselves over and over and over again to come closer and closer to the Geula and closer to the Shekhinah and to the final redemption. So today we spoke about what it means for us women to go through our monthly cycle of becoming pure and impure and reborn again every single month and after birth itself, and how we're constantly planting, shedding, growing, grieving, mourning, and moving on, which is just processing. And so the sooner you master the cycle of processing, the easier it becomes to process in every single area of your life. And this idea that we are partners with God in creation every single day, through every act of connection, through every mitzvah that we do, not just in the literal sense that it's speaking about in this parsha in creating man. There are parts of life that are God's job, not ours. And we don't need to worry ourselves with intricate details. Hashem is our partner. That is his job. When you have a partner in any sense, There are things that are your job, and there are things that are your partner's job. And that part, the worrisome part, anything that we ever think we have to worry about, it's not our job. Hashem is our partner, and He's got us. He has it all taken care of and sorted out better than you ever could imagine. And the last idea that we spoke about is the method of purity through introspection. And it's something that we all can practice. It's not just for a topic that speaks about people in the desert a long, long time ago that I sometimes in the past had trouble connecting to that idea. But when the Torah comes alive in the way that Rabbi Yoel has taught us to learn Torah, I now understand that this idea and this method of purity and impurity and taras and being a communication from Hashem, it's very much an idea that is alive for me today. And it is a practice that I am conscious of and constantly am in in practice and progress with whatever the words are. And any difficulty that you experience is an invitation to look inward. And so I bless us all with the ability to have that perspective and to have that feeling of partnership and connection with Hashem in creation of our lives and of the lives of the people around us, and to have the benefits of feeling that partnership with Hashem in every single aspect of our lives, and the wherewithal and the capacity to look inside, because that is the path to purity, to love, to connection, and to creation, and obviously, ultimately, for the Geula. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you for learning Parsha with me.